Ayo. So for those of you that are like, hey, I just saw this video and now like it's literally the same backdrop. It is the same backdrop. I literally just took off my plaid shirt because it's getting kind of warm and my cat is inside my parents' house. Anyways, so I want to talk about something else. I'm listening to two separate things right now, two separate podcasts, if you will. One is Joe Rogan talking to Matt Walsh, and they're talking about this documentary that Matt Walsh has done about asking people of different stripes and whatnot, different areas of expertise, what is a woman. And apparently it's extremely well reviewed, but you need to pay Daily Wire money to watch it. I'm not against Daily Wire. However, they've said some things about my religion, and I feel like it's super funny because Ben Shapiro is Jewish, and he like adamantly attacks anybody who like says anything negative about Judaism. And I'm like, then why are you attacking other people's religion, bro? It's kind of not cool. And it wasn't Ben Shapiro, it was one of the other guys, but whatever. Anyways, I'm still listening to the podcast because I think that I just haven't seen the documentary. But based on what I've heard about it, I'm like, this seems like a really terrific documentary. And then the second thing is Steven Crowder on Rumble. I don't think it's on YouTube yet, but on Rumble, he does a Change My Mind where he's like at a table and he's got like a poster or whatever, a thing saying, hey, blah, 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 change my mind. In this instance, the blah, 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 blah is he doesn't think women should be in combat roles. Change my mind. Now, I feel like I made a video about this, and it was very interesting listening to these two things on my drive home at different times or whatever and throughout the day. I feel like Steven Crowder doesn't go far enough because most of his points, as right as they are basically about, hey, the American military had these standards like in the 70s, and then they've like decreased them, and now they're like here. And even here, so up here, you had like 2% of women who applied for the military could accomplish this, right? And here, it's like 65 fail, meaning that's 35 success rate. So even down here, you have a 35 success rate for females. And or maybe I have it backwards. Maybe it's 65 success rate and 10% of men fail rate. No, I have it right. I'm sorry. So 65 fail rate, and men, it's 10% fail rate. Down here, right? Now, I think everyone can look back at what their parents looked like in their 70s, which is 50 years ago, maybe their grandparents, and you'll see like, oh, wow. In the 70s, people were like fit. Pretty much everybody was fit. Nobody was fat. And there's various reasons why that is. I don't want to really get into that right now. What I'm talking about right this second is this concept of, pardon me, women in the armed forces in general. Now, one could make an argument, and what he was talking about is armed forces or like police force or stuff like that. And he's trying to basically say, and he's trying to meet people halfway on like just the physical role. And what I'm going to say is a bit controversial in that I don't think women should be in the police force or should be in the military force at all. At all. Now, I can be wrong about it, and I'm willing to... Hi, Bubs. I'm willing to... Bubba wants to say hi again. I'm willing to change my mind, okay? And I almost wish I was there or could talk to Steven Crowder and be like, dude, you're wrong for all the right reasons. Because he is wrong, in my opinion, but for all the right reasons. Yes, in combat roles, there's many illustrations where it's like if you put men and women in the same like bracket and you have this bracket up here, you're going to have a huge fallout on women being able to accomplish that bracket. And so if you don't do it that way, and what they did before, the military, if you're not aware, is they this was what guys and girls had to do, and then they dropped what girls had to do, and then they basically made like a neutral thing here for guys and girls. Well, this is for our military forces. Like, that doesn't work. Like, you need people who can, if they need to, carry fully, with all their gear, carry a fully laden comrade, like with their gear. So that they are in all their gear. They need to be able to carry a comrade with all their gear a certain amount. If they can't do that, that's problematic. Sorry, if you heard that noise, that's the ice falling. And I was like, whoa. Anyways, so most women won't be able to carry a 220-pound guy plus his 40-pound set of gear and then go any real distance, because you're talking about their body plus their gear. Let's say it's 40 pounds plus the other person's gear, which is 40 pounds, plus the average guy is like 180, right? So what is that? It's a lot. It's just him and the two packs is 220, 260, 260 pounds, plus her own stuff, and then carrying any, like, no. Now, the average human male, can they do that? No, but with training, like, and a certain degree of, like, physical, yeah. And same true with women? No. And that's kind of the problem. But one thing that I think that Crowder rightfully didn't really bring up, because his thing is a whole thing, and I kind of wanted to bring up, and I understand that it might come across as sexist or misogynistic, and I'm sorry if you feel like that, but I think it's quite the opposite, actually. I think that, no, the reason why, there's physical reasons, okay? Like, if you want an army, you want the strongest people that you can bring forth. Sorry, if you pick 10 women and 10 men and you have them compete with each other, chances are at least 9 of the 10, if not 10 of the 10 men will beat the women in combat. We've seen this with professional sports where the top-notch female soccer team gets creamed. Top-notch pro-American soccer team gets creamed by high school soccer players. Like, what? So if you want the best of the best, unfortunately, pretty much women are not going to be it, okay? And that's just biologically true. Sorry, it just is. There's also psychological things where, and like, they're more prone to injuries and this and this and this. I'm going to get into that right now. Outside of the psychological, because I don't really like that realm. It exists, obviously, but I just think that too many people get into, like, psychology and this, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm going to speak to what I really want to speak to, which is women are extremely important to the continuation of civilization. Extremely important. If a dude gets shot in the chest, the arm, even in the head in certain places, whatever, unless he gets shot in the groin, okay? Like, you could literally, whatever. Unless he gets shot in the groin, he's able to come home and he can somehow make a living, perhaps, and he can have find a woman and get married and have babies, right? There's a higher likelihood of him being able to have babies, okay? Well, I would argue, and I don't know the stats on this, so I apologize, but I would imagine, since the largest mass is the chest, and you'll have to excuse my, like, man bums and my tubbiness because I bad eating and bad other habits. But in this region, in the tummy region, in the abdomen region, that's where you're most likely to get hit with a bullet, or a bayonet, or a knife, or a ricochet from a grenade, or a bomb, or something like that. And that region is, for men, like, just, okay, whatever. But for women, it's hyper delicate. Not hyper, as in they can't take punches and stuff like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. But meaning, if some untoward object goes in there, like some bullet or some, like, shrapnel or something of the sort, that could very, very, very much either like negatively impact their ability to have children. Meaning, let's say they do 4 years of service, and they come out and they got a Purple Heart because of their service and their wound that they took and yada yada. And then they find a person that they want to be with, and they go through the whole thing and they get married and yada yada. And then she finds out after investigation that like, oh, because of this, I can't have children anymore. Now, granted, she can adopt, obviously, but that's not what we're talking about. Whereas the same injury, guy comes home with a Purple Heart, same injury, he goes home, yada yada. Well, his Johnson still works, so he can still have, have children. So, and here, and I'm sure I've already made this video about it before, but I'm going to make it again. The simple analogy of it is this. You have two civilizations. One civilization, they have 100 people. 99 of them are men and 1 are women. Will they survive? Well, yes, but not very long. Okay? The only way they survive is if they invade and they capture other women to then enslave and make babies and propagate. So their value right now is that time that they can go and overcome another force. If they fail, like if they're just left, if they're kind of like put in a certain area and they'll eventually die. The men will kill each other, as they're wont to do, until there's a few men left. And I'm sorry, the women can only get pregnant like once a year, so it's not like... And then you have inbreeding and all this other weird things, and it's problematic. Even if the civilization manages to survive, it'll take so long for it to actually expand. Now you reverse it, right? Where it's 1 dude and 99 women. And I'm sure there's guys out there that's like, yeah, man, that's amazing. And it's like, okay. So aside from that silliness, and aside from the fact that like, well, how do they defend themselves, right? Well, then you get into like, if you're again in a safe environment, the women are hyper capable. As we know, women are very hyper capable. And so that guy, in theory, can impregnate 100 women in a relatively short amount of time. So you can have 100 babies in a relatively short amount of time. The population can really quickly upjump. Now, obviously, you are going to have some inbreeding, so there is that. Either way, you're going to have inbreeding. But in theory, after like 2, 3, 4 generations, it's gonna go like this, as opposed to get worse, which is what like modern royalty is at this point. So aside from those things, it very much goes against the nature of humankind, because women are this tremendously, extremely valuable element to society. And having them participate in war, which frankly, most people will tell you is rather pointless. War only happens in like the extreme of scenarios when you've exhausted all the options. Then in that case, taking something that is an extremely valuable element to the continuation of your species, of your society, of the mankind, humankind in general, that's dumb. That's just bad logic. Like, there's no justification about it. So, okay, and that's like why women shouldn't be in combat roles, but they could still be in like smart roles and like pilots and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, maybe. Or like doing administrative stuff. It's like, yeah, maybe. But why? Why? Because that's not utilizing the skills that women inherently have and tend to lean towards. That's not utilizing those things. So it's like having your star quarterback in football, and it's like, oh, well, he's really good at being a quarterback, but you know what? We're just going to have him do this because like he's okay at that. He'd have a running back or something like that. Or having someone in soccer who's like really good at being a forward and kicking the ball, but it's like, you know what? We want to give him a break. We want to let other people do that. So we're going to put him as the goalie. It's like, what the hell? Why would you do that? And don't get me wrong. The goalie is not a bad position, but like, why would you take an individual who's like so inherently good at this thing, and then you're like, but we're going to have him do this like polar opposite thing and see how it works. That's currently what's going on in society, and It's frankly disgusting and stupid. And I know myself, and I know many other friends of mine were kind of like, what the F is happening? And I think that we all kind of need to wake up and really look at it. Outside of voting, I think people need to remember, like, this is your thought experiment for the week. Remember what life was like a year ago. Remember what gas cost 2 years ago. Remember what gas cost 5 years ago. Remember. Because we are currently in a situation where we're so short-term memory that people just freaking forgot what it was like 10 years ago or before 2008. And they're like, yeah, I just got to make it work. And that's admirable. Like, survive. Push, push, push. Push to survive. But also demand and wonder and think. And this is my second thought experiment, is like, I want you all to think of an ideal scene. Think about, hey, 100, 150 years ago, you didn't get taxed for everything. If you got paid $100, you got to keep that $100. You didn't have to pay the state government, the federal government, anybody else. You got to keep that money. And hey, that $100, 100, 150 years ago, that's like the equivalent of, like, I don't know, $2,000 now or more. Or more, probably more. Just think about those things. I love you all. Plaid Man out with the cap. Bye.